Hello and welcome to week 1 of the Psychology of Adulthood, and I'm very glad to be here with you at UMA again. I taught last semester for the first time, and I'm really excited that they have given me the opportunity to teach another class. This is a new class for me. I've never taught the Psychology of Adulthood, although I've taught lifespan development about 87 times in my career. So hoping I can bring a new kind of invigorating experience to you, talking about specifically focusing on the ages of adulthood. And so by way of introduction, my name is Dr. Mark Kavanaugh. I have included in the Brightspace class a little video about me, and I'm hoping to learn about you. And so what I'm thinking about doing with this particular video is sort of set the precedence for how we're going to interact, what you're going to get from me, and take a little tour of this course that is still under development. Each week I'll be posting the new material, so you can't really work ahead because some of it's not finished yet. And so we'll be working together with that, and I'll keep you updated on that. So first and foremost, every Monday, I'm going to be posting a video like this, and it will be introducing you to the expectations of the week, the content. I might lecture a little bit. I might just focus on the particular assignments for that particular week. That will be the structure of the class. There will be stuff to do every week, mostly composed of short answer quizzes and online discussions, with the expectation in those discussions that you will post a reply to my prompt and reply to at least 2 other of your peers' posts for full credit. That's kind of explained in the syllabus. And the course is laid out over the entire semester. We're starting at UMA here. We're starting obviously a little late, and we're going straight into May for the end of this course. And each week there will be things to do. There's no periods of time where there's not a quiz or a discussion to have happen. And so let's take a look at Brightspace to see what you're seeing and what I've set up for you here. First off, I have chosen to, for my own view, I chose to actually hide all of these modules over here. I don't really need to see those. And so here's the section of announcements, and this is an area that I think you should come into maybe daily. I'll be using the announcements section to post when I've graded something, to post videos, announcements, any ideas that's going on, anything that I want. And let's say I change something, or I've made new content available, and you'll be able to go and look at it even before that week comes along. This will be where I'm going to post that information to you. So be sure that you go in there on a very regular basis. Once you enter into the course, you want to slip right up here to content. That's where all the fun's going to be. And as you enter into content here, here's the introduction to the class. This is that little video of me that I told you about. Here's my contact information. And then finally, the actual syllabus. So please be sure to review all this content. It goes through all the chapters. It goes through the expectations. Now, the syllabus is written with the idea of a course book, which I have not written yet, which is going to be would be all of the material in the class in a single digital document. Because I'm still developing the class as we go, I'm going to be posting PDFs of each chapter in the chapter folders in the context of Brightspace. So there's no course book, but if you ever see the term course book, what it's referring to are these individual chapter PDFs, which I'm coalescing together a lot of materials from different places, my own thoughts, my own work, videos, resources, and whatnot, to create the content for this class, which will be in the form for you as these PDF documents for each chapter. So there's no textbook. I'm creating all of the material for the class, and all you will need to do in terms of reading is engage in that document for each chapter. So even though the syllabus talks about course books, it's just referring to those particular PDFs for now. When they're all done, I'll be going to put them all together into a book. And then down here about the grading and the grading scale, the stuff that you're going to have to do for grades and the relative weights, and then institutional policies here at UMA. And that gets us past our first page. So we go down to introductions, and part of this is the expectations for this week. This is, you got my introductions, now I want yours. These 2 discussion boards are available, of course, all semester. One is course questions. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And one is course lounge. And course lounge is available for you to talk about anything, to add things to the course, to, hey, I saw this movie last night that has a really lot to do with midlife crisis, or something like that. That's a great place to share, or just maybe you have a car for sale and you think somebody in the class wants it. Certainly you can advertise it there. For now, for this first week, I want you to go in there and I want you to post an introduction of yourself. Now, one of the ways in which you can post an introduction to yourself, and it's optional, but I would certainly enjoy it, would be to record a little video. And you can do that right in the Brightspace interface. So let's take a look at how that would work. So you would go into Course Lounge and start a new thread. And then there's this little button right here that is kind of looks like the go button on a video from YouTube or something. You click on that, that's insert stuff, which I think is a hilarious name for that. And you click that and it gives you a number of different ways. You can put a YouTube video, insert a link, embed code, all this stuff. But here's add video note. And you can click that and you can get ready. I have to allow this. Oh, saying, can it use my stuff? Yep, camera, all that, and that's ready to go. I want to create a new recording. See, look at that. It's a different angle. That's me. And you can create a recording right here and say, hi, my name is Mark, introduce yourself and hold up your dog or whatever it is that you're going to do, and record that and put your introduction as a video introduction to yourself. Now, this is optional. Told me to save a battery there, whatever. This is optional. You can write it out, but I would think it would be really enjoyable to see you and interact a little bit, let other people see you too. So that would be a great thing, great way for you to interact in this particular aspect of the class. Now you go back to content, and we're back in that area right here. And the next line down is course documents. And right here it says about the course book. This is where you'd normally find that one big document with all the chapters in it, but it refers to the PDFs. But here you do find my expectations, course policies, online classroom behavior, face-to-face classroom behavior if we were doing that, and some advice I have in terms of success in college, just some materials for you to go through. Once you've been through course documents, we go down to course timeline, and this is the schedule of events for our time this semester. And the way this document works is each week I've outlined what the expectations are, and in red are the components that are required or graded. So I'm asking you, if you have course questions, of course that's optional. I'm asking you to post your introduction into the course lounge and to take the student intake form quiz, which I didn't, that's actually in the introductions here. I'll go back to that. You scroll down here and there's a student intake form, and this is asking you about your if there's any barriers to your particular participation in this class, anything I should know about you in terms of how you like to learn, how you like to interact and communicate, anything that you want to tell me about yourself that is you don't want to put in the discussion boards. And it's an opportunity for you to communicate with me about that. This is Not the same as accommodations. You have to kind of like officially go through that process to get accommodations, but you can certainly talk to me about how you learn. And it's completely optional. Each question is optional, and doing the quiz at all is optional. It just gives, for some of you, this might be the opportunity to say, you know, I really need a lot of positive reinforcement. I need to get some feedback. I really want, you know, those kinds of things that you want to get from me so I can help you be the most successful that you can be. Okay, we're making our way through the course here. We're down to course timeline, like I said. And here's chapter 1. It's the only chapter that is currently published in the class, is this first chapter. We're going to talk about the psychology of adulthood in general ways, and we have chapter 1 discussion and chapter 1 quiz. That corresponds to the list of chapters that are going down here. So week 2 will be conceptual models. Chapter 3 will be transition into adulthood and emerging adulthood, and just goes through the outline of the class that you can also find on the syllabus. So let's go to our chapter 1, and we go in here, and these are the same instructions on every chapter. It's basically review the document right here that says chapter 1, the psychology of adulthood. This is the chapter material. Review that before you do any of this. My YouTube channel, I recently did a video on the developmental perspective. I actually just did that last week and decided to include that. That will be a part of the course book later. And then here's the work, the chapter 1 discussion. And the instructions for this you're going to find in the chapter 1 document here as well, and also the chapter 1 quiz. So you click on this discussion when you're ready to do that, and click on chapter 1 quiz when you're ready to do that. Now the chapter 1, the psychology of adulthood, is the content for chapter 1, and it opens like this. So here's chapter 1, and you just start scrolling, and the first section of the chapter you will come across is an attention getter. Kind of gets you psyched up about what's going to be happening in this chapter. And of course, we talk about normalness. We're talking about normative development, meaning the theories and whatnot that we're going to discuss in this class relate to normal development. And then we see how that normal development can go askew, how you can get thrown off the tracks by things coming along in your life that disrupt the normal progression of development over time. So we talk about, you know, how do we define normal and abnormal? It's in a general sense. The next section is learning outcomes. So we're going to be discussing developmental clocks and applying the developmental perspective. That's the same concept that's in my video that I included. And then we enter into the teaching section. And this is essentially a written lecture. So in this lecture, I go through what is the developmental perspective. Very easy concept of simply taking a psychological question such as how well do people remember things and adding an age. How well does a 3-year-old remember things? That's it. The most simple quiz you're ever going to take in your life. You just come up with a question like this and then ask a question adding a year to it. That's it. The concept is being, you know, kind of when you're buying a house, it's location, location, location. When you're talking about human development, it's when. When did this happen? If somebody got into a car accident and we wanted to figure out how their newly attained paralysis of their legs is going to affect them, the first question we ask is how old are they? And then we look at all the normal things that are going on for 14-year-olds and we say, well, these are the areas that are going to be mostly impacted right now. You know, and that's how we apply the developmental perspective. So keep this very simple. This is not a question you have to answer. This is a question you need to write. You need to write the question, turn a regular psychology question into one that includes age. It is that easy. So don't get too caught up in like trying to answer the question for one thing we don't know, but or at least not within the context of this class. That would require some research. And don't try to say, well, what's the difference between 3-year-olds and 5-year-olds? That's not what we're talking about. We're just taking a normal psychological question. How do people see color? Which is something we might talk about in Intro to Psych. And then we'll say, How does a person age 65 years old and older see color? We just add the age. Simple as that. So that's the developmental perspective. Then we talk about normative development and how that, again, kind of repeating the notion that I talked at the beginning about the what that means and what it's meant over time. And then we get into the developmental clocks, which is a concept of understanding the forces of change using the analogy of a clock. And we have 4 of them. You might have heard of the biological clock. So think in that terms, what are the normal things that happen across the lifespan from birth to death? And then we look at psychological clock, what happens in terms of our cognition, memory capacity, problem solving, and maturity, emotional maturity. Then the social clock, what happens, when are things supposed to happen according to our individual social expectations? So what should a 14-year-old be doing, or what should a 72-year-old be doing? And then finally, historical clock. This is sort of based on when you were born. I was born in 1965. I have students that were born in 1990. We have lived different worlds, and we are different because of that. We are different in terms of our values, norms, and expectations. We share a lot, for sure, but we have a lot of differences, and that's what defines the generations. And we'll talk a little bit about the different generations that exist within our society. I then, at the end of the chapter, what I do is I go through each of the corresponding chapters after chapter 1 and talk a little bit about what's going to be in this chapter. And this is very instructional for me as I'm putting this class together. This was actually a very useful activity for me to kind of frame out what I'm going to be talking about in each chapter so you can anticipate what we're going to be talking about. And so go through these. It's not testing on, but it's just kind of a little previews of what we're going to be talking about in each chapter. And I look forward to writing these chapters as we go along. As we go to the end of the chapter, we then enter into the last section that you'll find in each chapter, which is the assessment section. And I explain that I won't put these instructions every time. These are the basic instructions for each section in green. But what I outline are the instructions for the discussion. You saw this already. You saw all of this text already in Brightspace here. But then for the quiz, I give you the questions. You don't have to go in, blind. You have the questions. So the first one is taking the developmental perspective. Write a typical psychological question, then write the same question again, adding age. It is that simple. Don't make this any more complicated. Finally, the last question in this quiz, reflect on the content of this course outlined in the chapter. Looking at all those different, I guess I am testing you on this. I'm asking you to read all those chapter descriptions and tell me what you're most excited about and any fears or concerns you have about anything. It's hard to imagine specific fears, but no, nonetheless, what are you excited about? What are you looking forward to talk about? And be as detailed as possible, because I'm actually going to use the answers to this question to inform the development of this material. So if you're looking through there and say, I would really like to know why my teenage son never listens to me, or something like that. Well, we're not about teens. I want to know why my 35-year-old brother hasn't moved out of the house yet. I will address that. So whatever you put in this question, I will make sure that I cover that material in the subsequent chapters. And so be as free with this, and I'll try to do as many of them as possible. So it's kind of a way for you to shape the class yourself, kind of be reflective of the content that you want to see and get out of this class. So I'm pretty excited about this particular question. Now, each chapter will be like this. There's going to be an attention-getting, learning outcome, teaching, and assessment section on each chapter. So you just go right through that. And once you're at this section, you prepare your answers, prepare your posts, prepare your answers to quizzes. Sometimes there'll be written assignments. That's the third kind of activity that I'll have you do. And then submit them to the appropriate discussion board or Dropbox that's within the same folder that you found this document in. So I hope that gives you a nice introduction to what we'll be doing together. We'll be doing, I think there's a couple times you do 2 chapters in a week, but mostly 1 chapter per week. But make sure you go to that timeline to know when everything is due, because everything's going to be clearly laid out there. I will be posting announcements as I update those documents, but there's going to be no real surprises. There are a thing that I call special assignments. These are larger, more broad assignments, sort of like research papers and stuff like that. And those are still under development. Those are going to be the next thing I develop, actually. I want to get those up there. And the due dates for those have been set in the timeline, so you can see where those titles are. The instructions for those will be coming along pretty quickly. I'm hoping to get that done this week. And so I will see you in class. Please post as many video introductions as you can. Get some good lighting. In terms of when you're doing any videos, make sure you have good lighting. I actually have a video studio that I do this in, so I've actually some professional lighting up here. I have a really good camera. And but if you don't put the light behind you, put it in front of you. If you put it behind you, your camera will make you all dark. So don't do that. Put the lights in front of you. So my lights, I have a large studio light there, and then I have one of those umbrella lights over there for my background. And put the lights in front of you, kind of a plain background. Hang up a sheet or hang up a, whatever, or make sure you're aware of what's in the back. Make sure, the kids don't go running back, just coming out of the shower or something. Believe me, I've seen it all. And let's enjoy this kind of interaction that we can possibly have. It's asynchronous, but you can leave videos for me. Keep in mind all of those Zoom sort of qualities, about watching your background and light sources and having a nice stable place to do those interactions, because I'm open to meeting with you one-on-one. If you want to have a discussion about something, you have a question about an assignment or something, we'll meet one-on-one. And one of the things I really will ask you to do is whatever you do, they call it a laptop, but please don't put it on your lap and then your video is going all over the place. Put it on a table. My camera's on a tripod and it's not going like this all the time. That's a little, make me a little, I'm old, make me a little dizzy. And keep in mind those interactions if you want to have Zoom calls with me, and we can certainly do that. I'm open for that. And so I'll end, and I will see you in class this week, and I'm anxious to get to know you folks. I'll talk to you later.